إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فهو المهتدي ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وخليله أرسله الله تعالى بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون. صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Today, brothers and sisters, and for a long time now, we, the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, have been experiencing an identity crisis. What is an identity crisis? What does it mean? Well, let us consider. The Muslim today is abased, defamed, slandered against in the news. And it is said about the Muslims that we are terrorists. And that our religion, Bill Maher says, our religion, though he is critical of all religions, he is most critical of Islam. An atheist, you know Bill Maher. He says that the worst one, all religions are bad, but the worst one is Islam. And we Muslims, not only are we unable to defend Islam because we are not informed, we are not on a regular basis well educated to defend Islam. Not only are we not able to do that, but then we put the cherry on top of the pie with our ill actions and our misrepresentation of Islam. Therefore, we have an identity crisis. Even the children who are raised here, your sweet children, or they were once a while ago, sweet kids. Then they got into middle school and so on, and they started to have this hip-hop complex. They're sagging their pants, they're yo, homie, and all of these things. And you don't know what they have become since they were children now. We've just been raising them here and they've become something else. We are at an identity crisis. But it is natural, of course. Every nation that receives the guidance, a few generations later, they become under an identity crisis. It even happened with Zakaria, alayhi salatu wassalam. Allah said, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم كافها يا عين صاد. This is the remembrance of your Lord, remembering Zakaria, his slave. What about Zakaria? إذ نادى ربه نداء خفيا. When Zakaria called on his Lord with a call of simpleness, submissiveness, a quiet call. قال رب إني وهن العظم مني واشتعل الرأس شيبا ولم أكن بدعائك رب شقيا. That, oh my dear Lord, my bones have become weak, of course with old age, and my hair is ignited with grays, meaning gray hairs. But I have not been yet disappointed with my dua. He's acknowledging that Zakaria, see this is from the adab of calling on Allah, is that you recognize Allah's fadl. You recognize His virtue and His in'am upon you, and then you ask. He says, وَإِنِّي خِفْتُ الْمَوَالِيَ مِنْ وَرَائِي. I'm afraid for the relatives of mine after me. He's afraid for his relatives after he's talking about the youth of Banu Israel. He's afraid for them after himself. He was a prophet. But he said, وَكَانَتْ امْرَأَتِي عَاقِرًا. However, my wife is barren. She's not able to have children. فَهَبْ لِي مِنْ لَدُنْكَ وَلِيًّا. So grant me from you, bestow upon me from you a patron, a child. What is this child supposed to do? يَرِثُنِي وَيَرِثُ مِنْ آلِ يَعْقُوبَ وَجَعَلْهُ رَبِّي رَضِيًّا. I want him to inherit from me and inherit from the children, from the family of Yaqub, and make him my Lord pleasing. Make him pleasing. Look at Yahya's dua here. He almost lost hope of his generation, especially the children that were there. He's afraid for them after himself. So he says, give me a child. The only dilemma he has is, excuse me, the only dilemma he has is that he is elder and his wife is barren. She has not been able to have kids. But still he's making dua. Give me a child. And what is this child supposed to do? Inherit from me. What? Inherit wealth? Expertise of how to be a carpenter or electrician or something of that sort. Or maybe the inspiration to become a physician one day or an engineer or something like that. Maybe. No. He's talking about the nubuwwah, the prophethood, the hidayah, the kitab, the book, the wisdom, the revelation. That's what I want him to inherit from me. Question for you all parents here. Do you wish that your children inherit from you the deen of Islam?
Yes.
Yes, but how diligent are we working to facilitate that for them? That's the second question.
Okay.
We all want this one. We all want the wishful thinking. We want the utopia. My children can carry Islam after me. But the reality is, we are hardly doing anything to help them in that. And for the most part, it's because of our dealing with them as our children. You think, I'm the dad, and I said it, and that's it. I don't have to explain to you anything. But in America, that doesn't work, brothers. I'm sorry. That's back home. In America, you have to explain to your kids why. You have to reason with them. Because if they don't understand why they have to do it or why they should do it and they're not convinced, they may do it, but they'll do it without a heart. And then once they have the ability to strongly go against you, they're out the door. Just like that. Once your son realizes that he's strong and you're weak, maybe he'll push you over, knock you over something. See? You can't do anything now. Kids do that. Especially because they're going to public school. That's exactly where they're going to learn it from. And in addition to that, they're watching all of the movies. Every latest movie that come out and all of the games, they're getting them because you're buying it for them and they're being experienced in these things. So yes, we do want them to be Muslims and all of that, but the reality is we're not working very hard to help them get there. So this is a dilemma now and it has been a dilemma before. Let us look to the end of Surah Maryam. When Allah Jalla wa Ala said, when he was, in fact what I'll do is, I'll mention this verse and then I'll go to that. Let's mention Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. Ibrahim, Khalilullah, the good friend of Allah. Allah said about him, فَلَمَّا اعْتَزَلَهُمْ وَمَا يَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. So when he finally abandoned them, meaning his people, and that which they worshipped beside Allah, وَهَبَنَا لَهُ إِسْحَاقَ وَيَعْقُوبَ. We bestowed upon him Isaac and Jacob. وَكُلًّا جَعَلْنَا نَبِيًّا. And both of them we made prophets. وَوَهَبْنَا لَهُم مِّن رَحْمَتِنَا. And we bestowed upon them all from our mercy. وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُمْ لِسَانَ صِدْقٍ عَلِيًّا. And we established for them a statement of truth, a high exalted statement of truth. Meaning, people after them would remember them in good, truthfully, and justifiably. Then he goes down the line. وَاذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ مُوسَى. mentioned in the book Moses. إِنَّهُ كَانَ مُخْلَصًا وَكَانَ رَسُولًا نَبِيًّا. Musa was mukhlas. He was designated for Allah. Not only was he sincere, but he only designated himself for Allah. Mukhlas means that I'm dedicated to one thing and I'm not dedicated to any other thing. This is Musa. He was mukhlas. Not mukhlis, that's different. Mukhlas. وَكَانَ رَسُولًا نَبِيًّا. He was a prophet, a messenger. He says, وَنَادَيْنَاهُ مِنْ جَانِبِ الطُّورِ الْأَيْمَنِ وَقَرَّبْنَاهُ نَجِيًّا. And we called out to him from the right side of At-Tur, the mountain. And we brought him to a close vicinity. قَرَّبْنَاهُ نَجِيًّا. Means that he really appreciated Moses. If you look at who Moses is and who he was, especially in the Quran, you would understand why. Okay. وَوَهَبْنَا لَهُ مِنْ رَحْمَتِنَا أَخَاهُ هَارُونَ نَبِيًّا. And we bestowed upon him from our mercy his brother Harun as a prophet. Who else? وَاذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ إِسْمَاعِيلِ. Mentioned in the book Ismail. إِنَّهُ كَانَ صَادِقَ الْوَعْدِ وَكَانَ رَسُولًا نَبِيًّا. He was truthful to his promise. And he was a prophet, a messenger. What did he used to do? وَكَانَ يَأْمُرُ أَهْلَهُ بِالصَّلَاةِ وَالزَّكَاةِ وَكَانَ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِ مَرْضِيًّا. He used to encourage his family, order his family and his tribe and his people with what? Salah and zakah. Salah and zakah. The greatest action of the body, which is salah, and the greatest action of the wealth, which is zakah, to purify it. And what else was he with Allah? Mardiyya. He was pleasing to Allah. He was pleasing to Allah. Is it possible for us to fit any of these conditions here? It's possible. But with what we are doing today, will we reach it? Everyone knows himself. كُلُّ امْرِئٍ بِمَا كَسَبَ رَهِينٌ. Everybody knows. بَلِ الْإِنسَانُ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ بَصِيرًا. Every mankind, every person is upon himself. He has insight about himself. Everyone knows himself. But with what you are doing today and what you are dedicated to today, are you able? Think you're going to be mardi to Allah? Pleasing to Allah? Let's go down the line. وَاذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ إِدْرِيسَ. Mention Idris in the book. إِنَّهُ كَانَ صِدِّيقًا نَبِيًّا. He was a siddiq. An evident, striving, strongly influenced by the truth and influencing the truth. Siddiq. وَرَفَعْنَاهُ مَكَانًا عَلِيًّا. And we lifted him to an exalted place, an exalted station. This is Idris. And Allah continues about them. These are the people whom Allah has bestowed His favor upon. He used the word أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ. Don't we say صِرَاطَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ? He used the same word. أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ. We ask this 17 times a day. How many? 17. We say صِرَاطَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ. But the people who are guided upon the straight path, we've turned and gone the opposite way in reality. And we do it day in and day out. These people, Allah says He has blessed them from the Nabiyyin, from the prophets, from the children of Adam, and from those whom we carried with Noah, and from the children of Ibrahim and Israel, and from those whom we have chosen and guided. What about them? What was so particular about these people? He mentioned them already, but what was so particular about them? إِذَا تُتْلَى عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتُ الرَّحْمَنِ خَرُّوا سُجَّدًا وَبُكِيًّا. This Arabic is not matched by anyone, and the Arabs here understand, they feel it. When the ayat of Ar-Rahman are recited to them, they fall on their faces in prostration and weeping. This is their relationship to the ayat of Ar-Rahman. Compare their relationship to the ayat of Ar-Rahman to your relationship with the ayat of Ar-Rahman. When you listen and when you read, do you even understand? Do you fall on your face weeping because of the truth of what Allah has revealed therein? It's not because you can't get there, because Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi was from Bukhara. 100 years, 200 years after Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But he was a mountain who preserved the sunnah. And others like him, Imam Muslim, Imam Dawood, Imam Tirmidhi, these people were people like us. They were just dedicated and diligent. They were true to their cause. So Allah lifted them and He guided masses and multitudes of people behind them. And He caused us to benefit from their works after their death. It can happen then to any one of us. It can be you sitting here. What happened after that? فخلف من بعدهم خلف أضاعوا الصلاة واتبعوا الشهوات فسوف يلقون غيا. After them came a generation of people. What did they do? أضاعوا الصلاة. They wasted the prayer. What does أضاعوا الصلاة mean? It's not like أضاع. It really means that you've lost something. What does it mean here, أضاعوا الصلاة? It means that they either weren't praying it at all, which it probably led to that, but even when they were praying it, it had no effect on them. Or that when they were praying it, they were not even cognizant of what they were saying. Or perhaps their minds were, fixated on whatever they wanted to do after prayer or whatever they were doing before prayer. Maybe the TV show or the movie or the work and so on. أضاعوا الصلاة. Ask yourself, are you closer to being mardi, pleased in the sight of Allah, or are you closer to this ayah? Those people who have abandoned their prayer, lost its meaning, lost its value. And of course, Allah says, إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ تَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنكَرِ. The prayer, it's supposed to, it should, prohibit one from lewdness, indecency of the eyes, of the ears, of the legs, of the mouth, of the tongue, of the privates, most importantly, and munkar, and evil deeds. That's what Allah does. It prohibits you to carry on in evil while you know better. But look at the many Muslims, many of us, we're drowning in evil. And if we are in doubt about that, then look at how we make our finances. Look at it. Look at the riba. Look at the lack of truthfulness. Because if we want, we all agreed that we want our kids to be upright after us. We all agreed in the beginning of the khutbah. But now, the reality is that we find ourselves farther and farther and farther away from this, what we want, this goal. But it's not that we should lose hope, brothers and sisters. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Alhamdulillah wahdah. والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده. Allah Jalla wa'ala deserves all praise alone. May His peace and blessings be upon the one whom there is no prophet after him, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Yusuf alayhi salatu wa salam was a youth. And he got into trial and trial again and again. Sold into slavery. First of all, he was conspired against by his brothers out of jealousy. They tried to kill him. They threw him into a well. Caravan came, picked him up, sold him into slavery. Now he's raised away from his family, away from his teary-eyed father who was sorry for him. But he never lost his identity. Yusuf never lost his identity in the midst of what he was in. He was probably the only mu'min there. You can imagine, because Banu Israel, it was no 12 tribes yet. It was just him and his brothers. So there was no Banu Israel in Egypt. It was him. He was probably the only muwahhid in Egypt, the only one who worshipped Allah. He didn't lose his identity. When he was invited to fahsha, to lewdness, to fornication, he preferred to be in jail to commit fornication with that beautiful young woman. He didn't lose his identity. When he entered the jail, two of the men there recognized, "Inna naraka min al-muhsinin." We see that you are from those good-doing people. He didn't lose his identity. In fact, when they asked him about their dreams, he said, ذَلِكَ مِمَّا عَلَّمَنِي رَبِّي. That is from what my Lord has taught me. إِنِّي تَرَكْتُ مِلَّةَ قَوْمٍ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَهُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ كَافِرُونَ. I have abandoned the way of the people who do not believe in Allah, and concerning the hereafter, they disbelieve also. وَاتَّبَعْتُ مِلَّةَ آبَائِي. Don't you want your children to say this one day? And I followed the way of my fathers, Ibrahim, Ishaq, and Yaqub. It is not befitting, it has never been befitting for us to adopt any association with Allah whatsoever. What was so special? They did not adopt any association, the slightest bit of association with Allah. None whatsoever. None. Not even themselves. Not even themselves did they adopt as God's beside Allah. Not even their desires. Let alone society today. What it tells you you must be or what you are, and so on. And how you must earn your living. And how you must spend your money. And how you must drive your car, and so on. He was not waved by that, he nor his fathers. And if you want your children to be upon this deen of Islam after you, you have to make an example for them today. You, father, you, mother, must make an example for them today. ذَلِكَ مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ عَلَيْنَا وَعَلَى النَّاسِ وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَشْكُرُونَ. He said, this is from the mercy of Allah, or the bounty of Allah upon us and upon people. However, most people are ungrateful. Are your children able to answer with an answer like that if they're asked about their identity? Are they able to answer with a precise answer that we do not associate with Allah any type of worship, any idol whatsoever? Are they able to say that? If your children are not able to say that with dignity and honor and confidence, then you have yet to reach your goal for them to be or carry the flag of Islam after you. You must start, O father. You must start, O mother. And last but not least, the story of Musa and Khidr is well known. There are three segments to it: the boat, the boy, and the wall. As for the boat, it belonged to some nice poor people that most likely after the boat had been broken and that king came to take the boats and they left his boat with them because his boat was useless, it was broken. Whatever commerce they were or money he was making, he probably became enriched, because Allah described them, كَانَتْ لِمَسَاكِينَ. They were poor people. They were working in the sea, basically probably taking people from one end to another or supplies from one end to another. So when the king, whoever the king was, came and took everyone's boat but theirs, that enriched them. But it started off that they were nice with Khidr. They let Khidr and Musa own for free. Allah appreciated that and kept their business for them. As for the boy, he had two parents that were believers. فَكَانَ أَبَوَاهُ مُؤْمِنَيْنِ. Khidr said, we feared that he would tire them out with طُغْيَانٍ and kufr. We feared that he would tire them out with transgressing of the bounds and disbelief. So he killed the boy in order that Allah would give him, of course, according to the order of Allah, that Allah would give them a new child. And Allah did, a pure child. Allah saved these two parents because they were mu'minain, they were believers. What about the wall? It belonged to two young orphan boys in a very mean city. And how do you know the people were mean in the city? Because they didn't even give Khidr and Musa anything to eat, and they were travelers. And it's, of course, commonly accepted in culture that you find a traveler, come to your house, give them some food and something to drink. They gave them nothing. Allah sent two prophets. The scholars differ about Khidr being a prophet. Allah sent two prophets to preserve the wealth of a righteous man who died and left a treasure under this wall for his kids. A halal treasure, by the way, from halal means. A halal treasure underneath the wall to two weak orphans of the city. He sent this man to come and rebuild and reconstruct this wall to preserve the wealth of his children. And he said, وَمَا فَعَلْتُهُ عَنْ أَمْرِي. I did none of that because of my own accord. Meaning I was ordered to do so. If you want your children to be preserved after you, brothers and sisters, you must wake up to the reality that you are a slave of Allah and you must do as He has said. If you want Allah to be pleased with you, you must follow His directions. The Quran is alive. The Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is alive. All we have to do is return to them. And in that is our guidance. اللهم اغفر لنا وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم برحمتك. اللهم لك الحمد حتى ترضى ولك الحمد إذا رضيت ولك الحمد بعد الرضا. اللهم أحينا مسلمين وأمتنا مسلمين وانشر نشرا مؤزرا من ذريتنا مسلمين صالحين. اللهم واعز الإسلام والمسلمين وتب على الظالمين منهم والمعتدين. اللهم اغفر لنا نحن عبيدك بنو عبيدك نواصينا بيدك ماض فينا حكمك عدل فينا قضاءك. اللهم الطف بنا جميعا أجمعين. اللهم الطف بالضعفاء من المسلمين. اللهم وعليك بأعداء الدين. اللهم خذهم أخذ عزيز مقتدر. اللهم اجعلنا من الصادقين الصديقين وتب علينا يا رب العالمين. عباد الله رحمكم الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. وأقم الصلاة.